Hi, my name is Goodman. I first got to the site that we have in Los Angeles in the Arts District. It's bordered on the Boyle Heights District and then also reflects the angle of the downtown grid as well. What first popped out at me is that I'm able to grab elements from the site and kind of put them together and focus them into my position statement, which kind of started out as the genius loci, which is the spirit of the place, the atmosphere or essence of the place that is brought from ancient Roman times with the same applied there. So what I did though, I did a little twist on it to kind of make it my own. I took LA back in the early 1900s to the 1800s and took that's where they started to import 80% of their materials. And I thought maybe, what if they never imported anything and they used all their local materials themselves? So mine's kind of a genius memora loci. That's the essence of my statement. Talking about some bad examples, some good examples. The John Hancock building in Boston, Massachusetts by I.M. Pei. It's a beautiful building, but as you can see, it does not belong in the area. The essence of Boston is rugged, is stone, is brick, and you put this big giant glass box in the middle of it, and you can see it doesn't really apply. Alvaro Aalto is a good example of genius loci with the Via Maria and the Latin Hall, where we took elements from the surrounding area and incorporated them into the structural elements and also in the shapes of the buildings. Also the genius loci house in Montauk, New York, where the Massey architects tried to get the influences of the war monuments that are around the area with the bunkers that are set into the walls of the building. So that's how he kind of sunk the building into the side of the walls to memorialize the war monuments there. Actually getting to the site, first I went and looked at other precedents about symbolism in architecture so I could grab from essences of them as well. Like I said, this is in Los Angeles in the Arts District. The site is on this really wonky site here that's sandwiched in between the Boyle Heights, the Arts District, and then the downtown grid. There's a lot of agriculture that used to happen on the site. One thing was they had orange groves in the area, and back in the early 1900s they flood irrigated. And so that was one of the things I could kind of think of, where they would have to be raised and get out of the flooding when they would do the irrigation. There's power plants, there's San Gabriel Mountains, there's the views back to downtown. There's always the thought of an earthquake going on, that they're right on top of the fault line. So getting a lot of the program analysis from these guys, I can't remember their names, I'm able to take priority, hierarchy, character, density, things like that, filter it through my position statement, and I came up with this kind of layout on the site, off the site, and on the site. So this is kind of give you the base of where I was able to jump from. Moving on to the actual site plan, I was able to take the housing that used to be on the site itself back in 1928. This is what the grid looked like. It's just a bunch of scattered houses. So it was an idea to bring the housing right onto there. That brings people, plus it has kind of a memory of residential there. There used to be a Lucky building directly right here. That was just finished a few years ago. What I did, or I proposed, is to take down most of the building, leave part of the walls that I can still use, and then build a new building that kind of flows with the continuity of the site. Also, there's going to be a rail stop somewhere along here, and that's a way to bring people together in the one area and kind of disperse them from there. So I chose that location. Like I talked about earlier, we raise up above, and we have some reflection pools that cascade across the entire thing with a raised plinth. They get the kind of idea that something happened there where they had to be raised out of the water. So it's just kind of a perception thing. And also at the very bottom, they're dismantling, destroying the 6th Street viaducts. So I thought that maybe we could take parts of that bridge and use it as a kind of sculpture garden in remembrance of that building, that structure. The way that the design of the program broke down is we would raise the plinth up. We would take the grid lines from all three of the grids, which forms the major mass in the center, and then we would open it up on the sides to give to the beautiful views of downtown and the San Gabriel Mountains. And then we would slice through, dematerialize these to where it's best to take the sun, the Los Angeles sun, and then also remove and dematerialize the part of the vertical circulation, as you can see here. And then at the end, just connect it to everything in the 3 neighborhoods. Once you get to the floor plan, you come up this large ramp or this large staircase, and right when you get to the top of the ramp or the staircase, you're then hit with a large cantilever that you come from underneath and into the front lobby. Immediately, you are getting this big area that shrinks you down to a smaller area that leads you into this very light quality atmospheric space, which I have here in my model, that you can see how it works with the light. And then there's the double doors that lead you into the darkest portion of it that has a real thick, massive walls to keep the sound from the rear yard, and as well as keep the sound from the inner getting to the outer. In the back here, this is where there's a lot of the 6th Street viaducts being built again. So there's a sculpture garden, some exterior space for any type of performances on the outside, because Los Angeles is a very beautiful city, beautiful weather. We have a coffee shop to bring people in, and then just a lounge to have people to come there as well. Once you go up the stairs to the 2nd floor, there's a 2nd floor lobby in the front, lead you to the 2nd story of the balcony. And then in the back, the 2nd floor is the faculty and office space, so that they can have eyes on performance space down below and have eyes anywhere else on the rest of the property. Going to the 3rd floor is the classrooms. The classrooms are on the 3rd floor on both sides, and then it's also supposed to represent the towers that used to be part of the schools back in the early 1900s. So the idea is to make the classrooms the actual towers. It's kind of a representation of the towers that used to exist in Los Angeles school districts. So all of them are on the 3rd floor. And from the renderings, you can see it's a well naturally lit place, and there's no daylight in there because they need to practice their lighting skills, natural lighting skills. As you can see in this section here, this is the 1st floor, 2nd floor. They have all views of the stage, fly tower, and in the back here, this is where you can get the 2 light shafts that allow light into 3 angles of the suns of the 3 solstices, and as well as the cantilever around the back that has the passive solar capabilities. And the idea of the granite came from, and that's what's on the top. The whole thing of the building is made out of the smooth granite and the rough granite. The granite comes from the ability to not import any materials, but that's 8 minutes. But the actual, I'll just summarize it up. The granite is very local in the area. They wouldn't have to import any materials as they use the granite that's local to the area. That's another genius loci that brings us all back to the beginning. And using materials that are local to the area is kind of a continuity that would exist today, I think.